can't say, this is pure
And
contract.
keep the heterosexual element outside. We are not on that at all right now.
No, that's very fundamental. We can't leave it aside.
No. We are not saying that that is not relevant. We are saying we are testing the core proposition in regard to the content of a marriage.
Because one view is globally prevailing that some say that marriage is simply a contract. It's up to the parties to define, my lord, what marriage is. Marriage becomes a fluid concept completely, my lords, and that's one concept. And that, my lord, what are the consequences of this, my lord? I'll show to your lordship, my lord, by when I read the Nussbaum's article, my lord. She goes up to saying that then you will even have to knock down the prohibited degrees. She says that the state will have to provide justification in the court, my lord, why these prohibited degrees, my lord, cannot be. The health aspect, etc., has been knocked down scientifically. So therefore, knock down prohibited degrees. She even goes to the extent of saying there are 2 pages I'll like to read. Then they can, why not brother and sister can marry?
But that is not, that doesn't pose a constitutional problem to us, because that's not.
No,
what you
no,
just a second. There you recognize the legitimate interest to the state to regulate. Now, what we are trying
where
to
do we stop? Legitimate, because state has to come and justify why we are banning the prohibiting marriage between brothers and sisters.
Of course.
Mr. Dwivedi, it's not as absurd as that, with due respect, because I think, in all societies, barring a few, these prohibited degrees of relationship exist in some manner or the other. Age restrictions exist.
So, again, we go back to the history, etc., and then see, my lord, that in Muslims it's a different.
Something even more
Hindus,
fundamental. There's something more fundamental. Apart from blood relationship, there is marriage relationship. For instance, sisters-in-law, brothers-in-law. Why is that relationship? Why is that prohibited? There is perhaps a very deep-rooted, public interest in that.
Of course, there is.
That is of some kind of order.
Yes.
Orderliness. So all these are legitimate statements.
But therefore, the state has a legitimate interest to find out, Lord, what is that order, Lord, which is to prevail in the society, given society.
Mr. Dwivedi, that is not being questioned.
So I'm saying that if you treat this marriage as a fluid concept, which individuals in the 2 spouses are to define for themselves what it is, we don't need any law, etc. Then each couple will be deciding, Lord, what marriage has meaning for them.
I didn't mean that no law. I said there is a law. There is a law. I'm talking even of heterosexual. Nobody is compelled to have children. Nobody is compelled to live together.
Lords, that's the greatest of difference, I say. It is one thing that some couples, heterosexual couples, may decide not to produce. Some couples may marry and may want to, but they are unable to produce because of infertility, of medical reasons,
You just
biological reasons.
go outside the precincts of this building and some of these complexes. You see construction workers, you see migrants who are away from their houses most part of the year. They go back barely for 15, 20 days. What is that family life? What is cohabitation for them?
So we are on the aspect of marriage. Family life will vary from case to case,
Exactly.
but marriage will not. With great respect, my lord, marriage cannot be made so fluid, my lords, so undefined. Marriage has the core purpose, as I was submitting, my lord, when your lordship put this query to me, is to bring about a unity of man and woman, my lord, for a social purpose. Because society needs to perpetuate itself, the race needs to perpetuate itself. Some may not produce, some may be infertile. These don't decide. The generality is that our population has grown from 44 crores, Lord, to 1.4 billion today, Lord. It's not because of certain people, some who did not decide to produce or were unable. We have reached here because, in generality, people want to come together, they want to cohabit, they want to, Lord, engage in sex, not merely for pleasure, not merely, Lord, for taking care of each other, but for building a family of their own, something out of their own body and flesh. It's all right, some people can adopt. These are exceptions. But the real thing is that we all want our own child and we try for it. We want it. That's how the family is built up. That's how the family, the child who comes into being, we build the relation, my lord, with the relatives. So our concept is different.
So-
Take any religion.
Mr. Dwight, if you therefore formulate and articulate the core content of a marriage, how would you do that?
Core content is the coming together of a man and a woman as commanded, as even Bible says, when Adam and Eve were there, that they blessed them for happiness and say, go be fruitful and multiply.
So therefore,
Every religion says procreation,
But
my lord,
definition is that procreation is the definition of marriage.
this society cannot survive. And so look at the problem faced by China and Japan, and today it is being said, my lord, by statistically that world is facing the problem of aging. We can't have IVF, my lord, and adoption. So in fact, adoption, what is adoption, my lord? Some heterosexual union has produced some children, my lord, maybe an orphan, and you adopt. What is IVF, my lord, and surrogacy? It's coming together of an egg and a sperm, my lord, together to produce a zygote. So ultimately, your family, your efforts to wanting to build something is dependent upon a heterosexual union. That's the fundamental truth. That's the most essential law of nature. That's the cosmic unity. And the society, my lord, cannot survive. Nations cannot be. What is national integrity, my lord, if this society grows old and there are no children? So producing children, bearing and rearing children. Bearing and rearing children. We don't want to go to the America way. Maybe there are, again, point out some families here, my lord, who are impressed by that, and where children leave the families at a young age and they are on their own. So everything is not beautiful there, my lord. And I have a very strong criticism of Justice Kennedy's judgment, Justice Sachs' judgment, and Nussbaum, Professor Nussbaum. They treat marriage as a pure and simple contract, my lord. It's not a pure and simple contract. It's the most sacred phenomena, my lord, on earth, and not confined to human beings, my lord, but to other species, plants, and so on.
So when you talk of right to marriage, which is what you were referring to, so marriage in any case transcends the constitution. It is not looking for its sanctity within the framework of a constitution, having predated it by several decades, years, centuries. So when you
And as your lordship said, my lord, that the constitution enables the legislature to regulate. Over the course of years, we find development of society, my lord, we find certain things which were good at one point of time are no more good. We today want equality within the family. So that's one more change. Bigamy again is a protection. These are all laws which are protected under Article 15.3. 15.1 doesn't affect it. 15.3 commands the state to make special provisions for women and children. Bigamy is to protect women. Maintenance is to protect them. Alimony is to protect them. So therefore, all these laws which are being made, our rights are not, the heterosexual marriages don't depend upon this. No constitution can take it away. That I will put it like that. It's a natural right
that's right.
by virtue of our being human beings. To deny that right means to let the nation die. That's the importance of this. And that's what Chief Justice Roberts in his dissenting judgments emphasized. And Justice Sachs in his judgment in Fori says, my lord, that this is not the essential characteristic of marriage. That's how the underpinning, two underpinnings. It's a pure, simple contract dependent upon two individuals, and secondly, my lord, it's not essential characteristic.